Hey YouTube, what's going on? Thanks for checking out the Straight SRT YouTube channel where we discuss all things SRT related. Now today's video is going to be a tire buying guide. So right now it is 5:30 or so at night. It's pretty dark out. My dome light's on so you guys can actually see me. I'm going to try and do some basic testing of the tires I have on the car right now. And then tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I get my new tires put on. I'm going to do the same test again in the exact same conditions and get some basic data from our G point of view as to how the tires behave. I also want to get into more detail on what's the best tire to buy and why. So there are three major categories. We have summer tires, which are dry and wet. We have snows, which are just obviously winter tires meant for snow. Then we have all seasons, which do dry, wet, and snow. So I did a giant cross-reference from a lot of different sites. So I had the best tire according to Dunn Tire. I have Tire Rack, I have Discount Tire, and I have forums. So I went on a bunch of different forums and found everyone's general consensus for a favorite tire. Those three different categories as well. I'm also going to compare my stock tires, how long they lasted in terms of months and years and mileage, compare my current tires and the next tire I plan on buying, or that I actually already bought, and I'm going to install tomorrow. Then I'm going to do some basic driving and tests for it. So I want to do the best study I can do in terms of grip. So it's 30 degrees out right now. What I want to do is record my max G-force in the vehicle, and then I want to record tire slippage, and I want to record braking distance. So as we all know, tires are all about grip. So right now it's cold out, so I'm not going to be testing any performance tires in terms of like dry and wet. I'm going to be testing all season tires. So on my vehicle I have all seasons. The first pair we get, the Pirellis, are all seasons. The tires I have right now are all seasons, and my next set of tires are all seasons. I'm only doing all seasons on this Jeep. I want to do three sets of data. So I'm going to do my 0 to 60s. I'm going to do my max G-force, and I'm going to do braking distance. So I want to do them each 3 times. So we'll do my 0 to 60, and then go right into a braking. So I'll probably do a 0 to 60 G-force in time, and then I'll probably go from like a 30 to 0 for braking. I think 60 to 0 is pretty extreme. So I do all those 3 times. That'll give me variable data to look at how repeatable is the Jeep, how repeatable am I, and how repeatable are the conditions. Now obviously as we brake harder and harder for longer and longer, the brakes get warmer and they start gripping harder and firmer. In terms of the tires, they get warmed up too. So I think doing back to back to back, 0 to 60 launch and then 30 to 0 braking, doing those 3 times on the same road we always do our testing on. I'll do that again for the exact same conditions for the next set of tires the following day, and do the same test again in sequence of 0 to 60, then braking, 0 to 60, braking, 0 to 60, braking, so on and so forth, to have basically the same simulation for the following day as well, and then compare that data. Before I do that though, let's get into some basic numbers. So on the cars, I can't remember if we have Pirelli P0s or not for our stock tire. I'm kind of drawing a blank there. So there was that option, and then there was, let's see here. Anyway, I forget. So for my data, I'm using the Pirelli P0, the RFs, the run flats. So right now, if I were to buy the tires today, they are $550.40 each, for a total cost of $2,221.60. So if those were my stock tires, I'm pretty sure they were. They lasted 27,100 miles and lasted me exactly 2 years. Now from those tires, I wasn't a huge fan. They are a much stiffer sidewall, give you less body roll. They're great for cornering, but for general driving all day, not a huge fan of them. So decided to remove those and put on Yokohama Parada Spec X tires. If I bought those today, they are $229.48 each, for a total cost of $917.92. Now those are going off my car tomorrow. They're not quite bald, but they are at the point where they should be changed, right where that little nub is and the tread, showing you where the tires should be changed, right around there. So those lasted me 27,400 miles. And lasted me 2 years and 2 months. So they lasted me 2 months longer and about 300 miles longer with those tires versus the stock tires. So pretty comparable. Cost-wise, they're less than half the cost. The tire I bought next is the Continental Extreme Contact DWS 06 Plus. Those are $363.99 each for a total cost of $1,455.96. I did want to change it up to a different tire. These have better reviews than the Yokohamas did, and so I want to see how they actually compare. So I'll get into my testing right now. Again, I'm going to leave the lights on, and we're going to do our 0 to 60 and then 30 to 0. Alright, so our first launch. And unfortunately there's a car behind me, so I can't do a brake test. Anyway, we had a maximum acceleration of 1.01 Gs. And for our 0 to 60 time, I think it's 4.7 seconds. Alright, so I had to literally drive around this giant area to get back to this road again, because there's a car behind me. So I'm going to turn off my dome lights, only have you guys facing forward so you can see what's going on the road. So we did our 0 to 60. We got our max G-force, and now I want to do a 30 to 0 brake test. So I'm going to do distance and record G-force. All right, 30 and go. All right, so 31 feet from a 30 to 0 and a 0.87 Gs worth of stopping G-force. Not bad. Now I'm going to turn around and we're going to do it again, another 0 to 60, record G-force again, and then do our braking distance again. So, not the most proper way to measure what we're doing. Definitely subjective, but I guess it's a pretty good idea what's going on. Turn around quick. Hopefully I don't drive into a ditch because there's no way to turn around. Alright, we're back in our track mode. Alright, that was a 4.5. Now we're going to do, that's a 1.08 maximum acceleration G-force. And now we're going to do a braking distance. 30 miles an hour. Braking now. So a 30-foot braking distance this time compared to 31 last time. And my maximum G-force was 0.95 G, so definitely higher than last time. All right, third time. There we go. That had a ton of tire slippage. I got a ton of tire slippage. All right, now we're gonna get back to our stopping distance. So that was a max acceleration of 0.97 Gs. And for braking distance, where are you? Alright, we're going to go 30 miles an hour and stop. 29-foot braking distance. Max G-force was 0.97. So pretty consistent. You know what? I'm going to do it again. This is kind of fun. One more time. Why not? And then I gotta head out before someone calls the cops on me. Alright, so final attempt here. I'm going to reset my max G-force. There we go. touch the car again. My last 0 to 60 time. Let me see if I can pull that up while we're waiting. That was 4.4 seconds. So we had a 4.7, we had a 4.5, and now a 4.4. Let's do it again. 0 to 60 this time. Let's see how we get. All right, that was 4.4. And let's see, our max G-force was, where are you, max G-force? 1.15 for a launch. And now let's record our braking from 30 miles an hour. And there we go. 29 feet. Max G-force was 1G. So it's definitely very repeatable. Looking at max G-force from stopping and starting, looking at our braking distance. Now keep in mind it is 36 degrees out, and it's kind of slushy, snowing out. But that was pretty cool. It's actually a lot of fun to do. So next I'm going to put on my new tires, and I'm going to wear them out right away by doing these tests for you guys. Before I get into that, I do want to get into comparisons for the tires. That was fun. More fun than I thought it was going to be. Alright, so let's get into it. So what I'm going to do actually next, so I'm going to read you guys through the best comparisons I found according to Tire Rack, Dunn Tire, Discount Tire Direct, and the forums for your all seasons, snow and summer. And then I actually got a bunch of data here from Tire Rack showing customer viewpoints. So how many miles were reported on the tire, what kind of tire they were, would you recommend it, how is wet performance, dry performance, winter snow performance, comfort performance, and treadwear performance. Had this for a bunch of tires, so I want to compare that. I did that on my computer though, so you guys can actually see the graphs. And then I did find a cool link that compares some of the tires, so I can get into it. All right, so all seasons first. So according to Tire Rack, the best all-season tire. Now I'm going to give you guys both options for run flats or non-run flats, because it's all personal preference. So non-run flat is the Continental GWS. For run flats, it is a Pirelli Scorpion. According to Dunn Tire, the best all-season tire is a Pirelli Scorpion Verde for run flats, or the Michelin Pilot Sport AS for not run flats. According to Discount Tire Direct, the best tire is the Pirelli Scorpion Verde AS or the Michelin Pilot Sport AS 3 Plus. According to forums, the best tire is the Continental DWS or the Pirelli Scorpion Run Flats. Again, depending on preference. Best snow tire. According to Tire Rack, it is the Pirelli Scorpion Winter. There was no option there. Dunn Tire didn't have a preference. Discount Tire Direct, the best snow tire is the Continental Extreme Contact DWS or the Pirelli Scorpion Winters. And according to the forums, the best winter tire is a Pirelli Scorpion Winter. Now, best summer tire, according to Tire Rack, is the Pirelli P0 Run Flat or Continental DWS. For the Dunn Tire, they're saying that their best summer tire is a Pirelli P0 Run Flat or the Michelin Latitude Sport 3. According to Discount Tire Direct, the best summer tire is the Michelin Pilot Sport AS 3 Plus or the Pirelli P0. And according to forums, for the best summer tire, it is the Continental Extreme Contact Sport 340 AAA. Alright, so did find comparison online. It's on Tire Rack. It compares the Pirelli P0 all season versus Continental DWS versus Michelin Sport AS 3 Plus. So that is online. I'll give you guys the link in the description below. So the best for your dry and wet, aka summer, is your Pirelli, and the best for snow is Continental DWS. Now, I don't have an opinion yet on my favorite tire because I haven't tested the other tire yet. But I think the next portion of this video, I'm going to get into showing you guys these different data points and kind of conclusions here from Tire, what is it? From Tire Rack. And then tomorrow, get into doing the same tests. We'll do our launches, measure G-forces, measure braking distance for the DWSs. Tomorrow, hopefully, same conditions as they are today. Give you guys a general comparison there, and then do a final conclusion to end the video. All right, so the second part of this video, real quick, show you guys these tires. So I just bought the Continental DWS. Now, one thing I want to keep in mind is that the whole video is based around having a stock tire. So if you decide not to do your 295, 485 R20s, they may have different tires in different sizes. So I can't guarantee that these tires are available in everyone's size. Also, as you change tire sizes, there are other options available that I haven't discussed in this video. So this video is more geared towards stock tire size. But on these Continental DWSs, you have a little DWS in here, right? So let me turn the tire around. So your DWS obviously stands for dry, wet, and snow. So as your tread wears down, it becomes less able to handle snow and then wet and then dry. So these actual letters are supposed to disappear over time. So when your tread wears down to the point where you can't read your S anymore, they're no longer rated for snow. When your tires wear down where you can't read the W, they're no longer rated for water. And then finally, there's just a D left. I'm not sure if the D actually ever goes away. It may go away as soon as you reach these nubs down here. It will show your maximum or your minimum tread wear. So they may go away when you see that. This is what kind of gives you a easy way to tell whether your tires are still rated for DWS or not, because they're not actually rated for snow all the way down to the very minimum tread wear. All right, guys, so it is day like 3 or 4. It's a Saturday, so sun's out. Figured it'd be a way better way of doing this video during the daytime so you can actually see what's going on versus at night we can only see headlights. So same test again. We're going to do the 0 to 60 pulls. We'll do 4 in a row, followed by 4 30 to 0 mile an hour stop tests. We'll record peak acceleration G-force and peak braking G-force. All right, there are no cars coming. Here we go. I'll turn you guys around. All right, and here we go. All right, now let's go into our braking distance. That just launched everything on the floor. So, braking distance was 30 feet. My max G-force for acceleration was 1.1 Gs. My max G-force for braking was 0.96 Gs. And my 0 to 60 time was 4.4 seconds. Not bad. And now let's do round 2. Let me change the angle of my camera a little bit. Alright, so second consecutive launch. Car ready, here we go. Alright. Put it back into auto mode as usual. Let's see. So that 0 to 60 timer again, 4.4 seconds, pretty consistent. Now let's get into our that was a 1.13 G acceleration. Now we're getting to our braking distance from 30 miles an hour. As a car coming in, so I'm gonna let them pass by. And 30 miles an hour. Stop it. That was 29 foot distance. That's pretty good. And max G-force for braking was 1.0 G. All right, next launch. Here we go. And alright, so that was a time of 4 seconds, which is pretty phenomenal. Let's see what our braking distance will slow down to 30 miles an hour. And stopping. Didn't record that time, unfortunately. But for G-force, we have a 0.97 braking force and a 1.29 launching force. That's definitely impressive. Now we're about to finish this off for the fourth and final launch and brake time. So I reset everything. All right, here goes our final launch. All right, again, another 4 seconds, 0 to 60. And now let's go into our braking time. That is a 45-foot braking distance, and our max G-force, 0.98 max G-force for braking, and a 1.31 max G-force for launching. So one thing I did notice is that my braking distances are completely incorrect. That's because when you look at your braking distance, and I did this at night for my first portion of the video, it shows you miles per hour that you start your braking distance at. So I was reading back to you guys the miles per hour I was braking at. So I was trying to go from a 30 to 0. So I kept saying, oh, my braking distance was 31 feet or 30 feet or 29 feet. Definitely not the case. That was the speed at which I started braking. So that was idiotic. Anyway, turn on here. What I did realize is that going from an immediate 30 miles an hour right to braking, if you stop too fast, the car actually won't register that you push the brake pedal. So you gotta like push the brake pedal for a second and kind of hover over it, or a split second maybe, and then push your braking distance down and brake as hard as you can. So that test kind of isn't gonna work out the way you want to, because if you have your foot on the brake and then it starts recording braking time, you actually haven't pushed the brake all the way down yet. And if you push it down too fast, it doesn't register fast enough, and then you're at 0 miles an hour and your braking distance doesn't actually show anything. So I'm going to eliminate that braking time from my analysis. I'm only going to include our max G-force for launching and for braking, and then our 0 to 60 time. Now the 0 to 60 time again doesn't really matter, because we're not recording the car's acceleration ability. You're recording more of the tire ability to handle G-force before it slips loose and breaks loose. So your best measurement here is going to be your max G-force for braking and for launching. Anyway, let's get into I have an Excel program set up right now, going through the graphs. I'm going to take all the data I just gave you guys. So again, for this one, my final run, there was a 1.31 max G-force for launching and a 0.98 max G-force for braking. Take all this data minus the braking distance, put it into Excel, and give you guys a quick graph, which is right here. Alright guys, so now we get into the analysis portion of the video. So the beginning portion kind of talked about 2 different tires according to different companies and forms, and then we got into some driving, and now we're getting into the data analysis portion of that driving. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you guys my overall thoughts on my best tire in my opinion, and then what is the best according to everyone else. So first things first, for data analysis, we have the Yokohamas and we have the Continentals. We are measuring our brake force, acceleration force, and 0 to 60 time, and then noise as well. I did get rid of the braking distance because, again, that wasn't done correctly, which is my fault. So the first graph, we got road noise. So I did use a decibel meter on my phone, so it's not the most accurate. I downloaded a quick app. And I did measure the decibels going on the same road at the same speed. Now, the min and max noises we're seeing here, ranging from 66 down to 60, they had a little bit of a larger range, but those were when cars were driving by, so obviously it doesn't count against the test. But in comparison, for the Continentals and Yokohamas, the Yokohama is in blue and Continental is in orange, they were basically the same. They did both fluctuate from like 60 to, again, to 66, but it's a very sensitive way of measuring noise in decibels, and they basically behave the same way. What I did do was when I had the car in neutral for the Continentals, I couldn't hear the tires. Same thing for Yokohama. So there's not really any tread noise whatsoever in either of those tires. Now for the Yokohamas, had those for a little over 2 years, so I got quite a bit of experience on them. The Continentals had them for about 3 days, I'd say. So not as much experience, but I have driven through light snow, I've driven through dry, and through some water on them. So same conditions, and in my opinion, they both are exactly the same for noise levels. I do have an exhaust on my car, so the exhaust is the most noisy part of the vehicle, but when it's in neutral, you can't really hear any road noise whatsoever. So in my opinion, they're both even. Now for our 0 to 60 timers. There are a few differences here I want to point out first before we get into the data analysis portion. So again, Yokohamas are in blue and Continentals are in orange. So for the Yokohamas, there are some different variables which kind of explains why they had a slower 0 to 60 time. So it was colder out for the testing Yokohamas. That was at night, and we had about 36-degree temperature, and it was kind of raining / slushing / snowing while we did the test. So for the Continentals, the first portion, the first 2 tests were done together consecutively, and those were about 38 degrees. The roads were more wet. And then the last 2 tests for Continentals, they were done about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour afterwards. The roads were much more dry, and the temperature was 41 degrees, so a little bit warmer and drier. So that drastically dropped our 0 to 60 time. I mean, 0.4 seconds is a phenomenal difference in time. The car also launched a lot harder, which I'll get to in a second. But they weren't the same variables for comparing Yokohamas to Continentals. So again, Yokohamas, we had a 4.7. Then as the tires warmed up for the second pull, we had a 4.5, so pretty big difference there. And then the last 2 pulls were consistent. They were both at 4.4 seconds, which means the car's at stasis. Your coolant's doing its job, your oil temperature isn't getting too much hotter, your tires are warmed up, and they're getting the maximum friction they can put down. For the first 2 pulls in Yokohamas, as you guys remember, there was quite a bit of tire slippage, which explains why it took longer to get to 60 miles an hour. And for the last 2, there was almost no tire slippage, which is why they're exactly the same. We see a very similar trend for the Continentals. The first 2 ones at a 4.4 seconds, and then the last 2, again, at a 4 seconds also. The car did definitely launch harder with the Continentals. So I did do early testing with Yokohamas when it was colder out to try and compare my 0 to 60 times, and my best time is a 4-second 0 to 60, and that was achieved with the Continentals. So in my opinion, they do grab better than the Yokohamas do, even in colder, wetter conditions. Now, I'm going to do a further review on these tires once it gets snowing out, though I can do a true comparison of the Yokohamas to the Continentals over the course of several months of driving the Continentals. But for 0 to 60 time, definitely made a difference. For the Continentals, they were better in my opinion, but not as good as the chart is showing because again, all those variables not included in the chart. So next is really the most important part is our G-forces. So G-force really measures how well your tires stick to the ground. Your 0 to 60 time, only really shows you, in terms of tires, it only shows you the initial gripping force of the tires. And that's why I wanted to do braking distance as well. That really shows you your initial max G-force your tires can handle when braking. Your braking distance is dependent on your brake pads, so it's not super good measurement. And then 0 to 60 time, again, is meant more for your mods to measure that time. But the real true comparison here, apples to apples, is G-force. So let's get into our first measurement. Again, Yokohamas are in blue. So for that one, we had a much lower G-force. And again, this is because the tires were colder. As tires heat up, you get higher friction coefficient, which means better grip. Which is why in your second pole, which is back-to-back, you're at 0.95. Much higher G-force, much better grip. For your third one, for Yokohamas, again, tires got warmer, you get better grip. And then for your fourth pole, they're the warmest. They had the highest G-force for braking. Now compare that to your Continentals. So for your Continentals, again, it was a little bit better conditions, a little bit warmer out, a little bit drier for the second two. For the first two, it was wet. So your G-force automatically higher on a cold tire for your Continentals. And then for your second pole, it's also higher for your Continentals versus your Yokohamas. Again, there are some weather conditions there that may change that. Then for your last two, again, they are done in greater succession in time. But your Continental G-force drops back down for your last two tests. It's not as high as the 1.0 that you saw for the initial test. So definitely a little bit different there in terms of G-force. So overall, the Continentals appear to have a higher average in comparison to the Yokohamas. Now they did, in my opinion, launch harder and grip harder than I've ever done in Yokohamas. So for this comparison, again, there are the variables in time and temperature. Make a little bit of a difference there, especially for when it was raining out versus being dry. But in my opinion, the Continentals do have better grip for braking force. As we're going to see, same thing may go for acceleration force. So our last chart now is for acceleration G-force. So keep in mind here that when we are launching, when you stop the car, you have the entire engine obviously in front of you. So as you're pushing down, a lot of that force goes forward and falls on the first two tires. And then when you're accelerating, you kind of rock the car backwards. You get a much more even force distribution from front to back on your four tires for acceleration, which is why your acceleration G-forces are higher than they are for your braking. Now, of course, you change your brakes out, you can have a much higher acceleration force or deceleration force as well. But for the acceleration forces, we're just going to compare the Continentals to the Yokohamas. So in this chart, again, for your Yokohamas, they are in blue. So we're seeing like a little bit over a 1 G-force and then a little bit higher. And that kind of drops back off and then goes higher again. So your maximum is about like a 1.1, 1.15 for your Yokohamas. For your Continentals, though, they are higher in every category. So the Continentals are a little bit higher for your first two poles than Yokohamas. And then for the last two, they're quite a bit higher in comparison to Yokohamas. Now, again, there is that difference in your unknown variables. We discussed wet versus dry, and then temperature changes as well. Now, I do know that the hardest launch I've ever experienced was today in my Continentals. So definitely made a big difference for grip. I'm sure that in the summer when it's warmer out, it's going to be even better for a launch. But keep in mind, too, that when you have warmer air, your car is also going to react adversely to that. So you're going to get more power to your car right now, which could play into why we had a faster acceleration time. But G-force wise, your G-force should be higher in the summertime. Now when it comes to summer and winter tires, you have this balance where the summer tires are stickier, so they're a softer rubber, and then in the winter tires, they're meant to be a much firmer, harder rubber, which is why you get different lengths of life for your summers versus winters, and why they use different rubbers and different coefficients of friction. For your summer and for your winter, there's that difference, but for your all seasons, it kind of combines the two. It wants to find a middle of the road friction and a middle of the road hardness for the rubber, measured by durometer, to make sure that you have a good balance in the summertime and a good balance in the wintertime. So that is it for the analysis portion of the video. Again, my opinion for road noise and 0 to 60 time and G-forces for acceleration and braking, my preference is leading more towards the Continentals, but not by a very large margin, by a smaller margin. Alright, so now let's get into the actual surveys that were done on TireRack.com. So the first one's for the Continental Extreme Contact DWS. This is a tire I just bought recently again. So they have these ratings on here for how many miles are reported based on different users, what their rankings are, if they prefer it or not, and then going through different performances. So in terms of recommendations, 8.9% or 8.9 out of 10 for the Continentals, and then for wet performance, you got 9.4, dry 9.3. For winter and snow, it takes a little bit of a dive from excellent to good at 8.2, and then for comfort and you're at 9, and then tread performance, so longevity, you got 9.1. Next, we have one for the Pirelli Scorpion Winters. So this is obviously just a winter tire. So recommendations, 9, which is excellent. Wet performance, a 9.3. Dry, you have a 9. Winter is 8.9, so very good. Comfort at 8.9, and then tread performance at 8.2, or 8.3, I mean, so that's good, but not excellent. And we had the Pirelli P0 run flats. So would you recommend it? About 4.6 out of 10, so that's fair. Wet performance is at a 7.4, which is good. Dry, you're at 8.6. That's not a snow tire, so there's no category for that. Comfort is at a 6.6, and then tread performance is at a 4.6. So here's the conclusions based off of what I've looked up so far. So the best winter tire is a Pirelli Scorpion Winter. The best all-season tire is the Continental Extreme Contact DWS. And the best summer is a Pirelli P0 run flat. Then for non-run flats, the forums do suggest either the Continental DWS or the Yokohama Spec X. Alright guys, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. We discussed the Yokohama tires personally, for my opinion, versus the Continentals. Did a bunch of testing for G-forces, acceleration, and then we went into more of an analysis from different forums and from the some suppliers around the area, such as Tire Rack, Discount Tire, Direct, Dunn Tire. And then finally, did another conclusion, looking up the opinions of many other users out there on the different tires. I showed you guys that previous portion on the computer, doing data analysis, and then my final conclusion. And that was basically it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I have a ton more on the way. As a sneak preview, I'm going to do a talk about octane boosters pretty soon. So I did discuss how, in my opinion, they don't do much for you. But I'm going to put it to the test. We're going to do a technical analysis on octane boosters using these guys. So that should be a pretty cool video coming to you pretty soon. If you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I have a ton more content on the way, and I'll see you guys soon.